everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about this week's, or last 2 weeks more like, TV news. First time we've done this in a little while, because obviously news has been a little bit later, just due to the ongoing world situation, we'll call it. And because of that, it's been kind of hit and miss. There's a couple of big things from a while ago, some big things this week. I did have to go through like 2.5 weeks ago to get enough to do an episode though, so I think we're still justified in not trying to hit this weekly. But we're going to try something a little bit different today. Not a big difference, just a little bit.
I have not been consulted on this, and I do not approve.
I don't need your approval for anything. If anything, not getting your approval just makes me feel more confident about the choices that I've made. So I'm just shaking up the order of which we do this a little bit to be a bit more like a proper YouTube show. Some of the headlinier stuff is going at the front, and then we'll continue.
I told
from
you
there.
to do this like a year ago, and you were like, "No, I've got a format."
Well, it was much better when I'd forgotten that you had suggested it, and then I thought of it myself, and it was a much better idea. That's how this works. So we'll start off then, and again, I've also ordered these a little bit, and even though I think the biggest one of this is not first because it's old enough now that it's not the biggest headline now. Had we done this 2 weeks ago, that would have been the headline. But I think this week the biggest thing is probably the fact that Upgrade, the movie that came out just last year, starring our boy Logan Marshall Green.
Yes.
Marshall Logan Green? Which way around is his name again?
I thought it was Logan Marshall Green, but now you've made me doubt it.
I think it is. I doubted myself. But he was in that movie. Obviously, we like him from Quarry, but that was a Lee Winnell directed science fiction action movie. And what's funny is that when I saw it, and I enjoyed the movie, particularly the technical qualities more than anything else, but I remember, I thought at the end, like, oh, that was a really good proof of concept, but it felt like it was more of a TV pilot than necessarily a standalone movie that was really great on its own. And so when I saw this news this week that Lee Winnell's setting up a TV show based on Upgrade, I went, yeah, that makes sense. that feels like a good idea. Feels right. So
yeah, I thought the movie was just okay. I mean, I think I remember you enjoying it more than me at the time.
I think that's probably fair, but I think conceptually it was pretty solid, and I in particular liked how they filmed the action and how they emulated the idea that this guy, because just to give you the premise here, I won't even read theirs, I'll just tell you because I've seen the movie, is that this guy is paralyzed from the neck down, but he gets this computer chip in the back of his neck that can take control of his body and move it for him, and so we get action scenes where the computer chip takes over and does all the movements, but he still has head. He's still he's still reacting. But we get this great, almost comedy mixed in with the action where he's reacting like we are to what his body's doing to the bad guys, and it was very unique. It had a unique fluid motion to it.
The body it's moving in a very robotic way at the same time though. Like it's very stilted.
Yeah.
In it does like movement by movement.
Yeah. I liked that quite a lot. I liked how it was filmed as well, to sort of add to that weird sense of motion that I had.
Yeah, I get it. I think it could be a perfectly good TV show, but at the same time, I'm not excited for it. But yeah, I might see it and be like, oh, this is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Obviously, this is Blumhouse, which has a long relationship with Universal, so one would expect that at the very least this would get first dibs at one of the Universal places. Maybe Sci-Fi is a good place for it.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
USA Network wouldn't be out the realm of possibility either. Like, there's a lot of places they could go with this. But my only hope would be that it'd have a decent enough budget to actually do the action, which I don't think has to be huge, because it wasn't a big budget movie. It was very slick for what it was, but it wasn't a huge budget movie by any means.
And the action's not over the top either.
No, they did a lot with little, is what I think I appreciate about it.
It's action that I could see very easily accomplished on a TV budget with not even a massive TV budget, just a pretty average, maybe slightly above average, but
yeah, so
nothing huge.
Yeah, so the writers' room's open just now, and the stories are being written for Upgrade's first season. Wannell is in there. He's helping develop the show along with the other writers. So the fact that the person who wrote and directed the movie is working on this makes me feel pretty confident. He just did The Invisible Man as well, of course, earlier this year, which was also a very solid movie, probably his best outing so far as a director. So
yeah, That was pretty good.
There's a lot of reasons to, I think, be optimistic about this. A lot of reasons to be optimistic. That said, though, I mean, he's not done long form TV before, so who knows how that'll end up. But all I can do is try.
Yeah, I mean, can't be worse than some of the other stuff we've seen. So why not?
Yeah. So next up, also a series being based on things, we have The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, or the Millennium Trilogy, if you will, which of course has had the original trilogy from Sweden, and then the remake or the new adaptation from Fincher, and then that had a sequel with a new cast based on not the kind of the fourth book, but not written obviously by the original author because the author passed away. But
is this the one that came out like last year or the year before?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact what it was based on, but it was based on something.
Basically, did nothing and no one saw it, and to the point where I can't remember what it was called.
It definitely started with the girl something. It was the girl.
I mean, probably. That's kind of their thing.
The girl who danced all night long. I don't know what it was called. Anyway, Amazon are putting in development a Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series revolving around Elizabeth Sander, the character from the books from Stieg Larsson. Deadline's confirmed this. Sony Pictures TV are also behind the production side of it. So, yeah. I mean, she's kind of a PI essentially to give you the short term of it. But
feels natural for TV, actually.
It does, and I can see the opening season being kind of based on that first story, and sort of making it more of a 10 episode thing, and I can see it working. I enjoyed the original movie well enough. I saw the sequel and didn't think it was as good, but not bad necessarily. I never saw the third one for whatever reason, and I did see the Fincher version of the first story, and thought it was well made, but felt kind of redundant because this was one of these weird, unique ones where I saw the Fincher remake literally in the same theater, and by same theater I mean the same room that I saw the original in the previous year. So
yeah, it's rough when that happens. It's not a bad movie though.
No, I mean, it's got some interesting things. Like, the differences were probably the things I liked the most, just because it was like, okay, this is a purpose to exist versus the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and I think by shifting to TV, by its very nature, has to shift out a lot of things. It has to repace the entire thing, and
yeah.
Well, so even though there will be familiar beats in there.
Well, the other benefit is that those two movies were a year apart, like literally exactly 1 year, more or less, and then this TV show is almost a decade later, so I've forgotten a lot of it now. So
that does tend to help.
So that'll help, I think, a little bit. So that's Amazon who are working on that. So that's a potential Prime exclusive coming up, probably in a year or year and a half's time. By the time they actually go make it, if they go through with it, and then the sort of three or four headlines, I'll say, is that we're getting a spin-off to American Horror Story called American Horror Stories. Would you like to take a guess as to what this is?
More of the same, but episode by episode anthology?
You nailed it. It's episode by episode. Each episode's its own story.
I'm shocked.
I'll be honest, I think it's a good title. Saying that we're going to do that, but in an episode by episode format.
I think the fact that you go, oh, do you want to guess what it is? And I can reasonably confidently there go, is it this? And it's smart marketing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's officially been greenlit. It's not even just in development, it's been greenlit at FX, and they're all excited. I mean, they've been milking American Horror Story now for a decade, so they're more than happy to do more of it.
I always forget that it's still going until people start talking about the new season whenever it happens. I'm like, oh yeah, this is still a thing.
I wish I liked it, I really do, because there's something insane about it, because they did a thing like a season or two ago where they had like 3 of the different seasons cross over. Like, a lot of the characters came back from 3 of the different years, and it became this like more of a shared universe than it was like a like, well, it is an anthology, but it's an anthology in a shared universe, I guess would be the phrase.
Yeah, it made them feel connected and not just completely separate and random events each season.
Although the weird thing is, I do think that they reused a lot of actors between seasons though, which is the interesting part of that. but I clearly they weren't planning the crossover when they started, so whatever.
I'm sure they made it work somehow.
I wish I could be. People have recommended me the 80s season, and I'm sure it's right up my alley in terms of concept. But every time I've tried it,
once you try it 2-3 times and it's just not working, you just be like, even if this season looks like it should appeal to you, boat sailed.
It feels like the Reader's Digest version of horror for someone who's never seen a horror movie before. It would be my description of from trying a couple of the first episodes, but hey ho. So there you go. That is American Horror Stories. And then the fourth headline, and this is the thing that would be the main headline had we done this 2 weeks ago, but believe it or not, we haven't talked about Ruby Rose leaving Batwoman yet on the news.
No.
So,
and there's still at least one other major show that's been developed that you didn't mention in here, and I'm annoyed at you.
Maybe I missed it. We'll find out. When we get to the end, and if I've not mentioned it, you can complain. But
no, it's in this new format of the news. It deserves to be in this. We'll do Ruby Rose first, but I'm going to bring it up after this. Whether or not you've got it later on is regardless.
Look, let me make one thing very clear here, right? Only one of us decides what the headlining stories are, right?
Well, one of us needs more perspective, clearly.
Is this some dumb Star Wars thing? Is that
no,
what this is going?
It's nothing Star Wars, I promise.
Okay, all right.
It is Disney related, but it's not Star Wars.
I bet it's stupid. All right, so yeah, Ruby Rose just suddenly left Batwoman. This was just almost 2 full weeks ago now. She just, all of a sudden, there were stories out just saying, yep, she's out, she's leaving, and they're going to recast for season 2. And my instinct, my first thought when I heard this was like, and this may have been unfair, admittedly, to jump straight to this, but my instinct was, you know, she's been in some movies already, because I'd already seen her in a couple of things. She was in one of the John Wicks, she was in that shark movie with Jason Statham, she's been in a bunch of things. And my instinct, my first thought when I heard this was that she was not suited for a 22 episode TV season, and she realised that after actually having to do a full season of one that she hates the work hours, and she was probably too naive and really should have thought about, does she actually want to be the lead in a show of this size? Now, admittedly, she was also injured on set at one point, so there is another element there to consider, that maybe there is some animosity because of those elements, but
quite a severe injury by all accounts.
Yeah. But the stories that came out just a day or two later, kind of saying, yeah, there was a lot of tension on set, she didn't like the work hours, this was making the working environment not particularly pleasant, so they decided to part ways. It feels like there probably is some stories here. That said, though, because of the injury element, I can't completely just vilify her. There's a good chance that maybe she did feel unsafe, and that soured her experience working on the show. But at the same time, my initial thought, even before I even knew about the injury, I mean, I think I'd heard about it before, but I'd forgotten about it. It wasn't until someone mentioned it again. I was like, oh yeah, that's right, she was injured on set. Was that, yeah, she probably just wasn't, like, because when they cast her, it was kind of like, relatively speaking, for a TV show in the CW, a big name.
The fact that when she was cast, I'd already seen her in 2 or 3 movies.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen with CW shows very often.
And it's very rare that a lead in a TV show will want to leave after one season. Obviously, it happens later on and runs after 5, 6, 7 seasons because they feel like they've got bigger career ideas and but for the most part, they tend to still be in that honeymoon phase where, hey, I'm getting a really good paycheck because I'm the lead in this TV show, I'm getting all this publicity, and this is a good steady gig for a while. And so it doesn't tend to be until after, I don't know, at least a few seasons before
I'd say,
that unrest.
3 is like the minimum.
Yeah, more often than not, I expect that, they're happy for about 5 seasons, unless there's something wrong with the show and the environment or something.
I think 5's a really common amount because I think it seems to be the boilerplate standard. Contract is up to 5 seasons, and then it gets to renewals, and that's where they're like, well,
But this is a big deal. This is, I mean, they've recast some small things here or there, but this is kind of a big deal in the sense that they're recasting a lead actor for one of the shows. And I suppose the closest comparison would be probably Hulk in the MCU, but the one difference I would point out here, it's more like the Hulk if the Hulk wasn't recast until after the first Avengers, where we'd already seen him interact with everyone else. Because Ruby Rose has been in multiple crossovers at this point, interacting with Supergirl and The Flash and whoever else.
What's really bizarre as well is, if I recall, a little bit before this news broke, was that the next crossover for the start of next year, because that's when the seasons are starting this time, was going to be between Supergirl and Batwoman, I believe.
No, yeah, Superman and Batwoman.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, so it was Superman and Lois and Batwoman was the crossover.
Okay, but even so, the point was this was very clearly planned before this, and that was so this news must have come as a bit of a shock to the production and PR side of things, in that they'd already put this announcement out there of this crossover, and then this happens.
I do wonder, like, they've got some choices here. Like, do they just do a straight up recasting like we think of it in a typical thing? Because they do have some options. They could go down the route of they don't recast Kate Kane, they just have someone else who takes the mantle. That's a possibility. There's also the possibility of Kate Kane either having to change her appearance, so they use powers to do that. Someone else changes their appearance, or there's also the possibility that we literally have a Kate Kane from a different universe, Earth, whatever, come to town, and she ends up becoming the new.
I would kind of love if they just don't reference it, just don't acknowledge it whatsoever. Just recast, just carry on.
Yeah, but you're not watching it though, so what do you care now?
I know. I would love that. It'd be more fun.
Because I do think there's potential. The problem with doing a new character is that one of the big selling points of this show, as far as adding it to the the slate of shows, is that it's this representative show having a gay lead character, right? And by changing the character, if you don't change it to another gay character, it's going to feel like you're taking away one of its unique ideas, but also not a slap in the face, but it's kind of like, oh wait, you're changing that, like, so.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting that obviously Ruby Rose is part of the queer community, and the CW have actively already said whoever replaces her in the role will belong to some facet of this community. It won't be just anyone.
So even the actor is going to be.
Yeah.
Okay, right. I mean, yeah, that's fair. But I mean, that's the thing though. Like, they could hire a gay actor, but the character doesn't necessarily. I mean, if let's say
they could, yeah.
Yeah, let's say they just I joked and said, hey, Cassandra Cain could be the new Batwoman. Why not? Like, they could totally do that, but you would take away the fact that the character. I mean, you can make Cassandra Cain gay, I suppose. So there's no reason why you couldn't. Actually, now to think about it, but
no, that would be no problem. I think the problem is Cassandra Cain is very quiet for a lead for a TV show.
That's true. That was just the first name that popped in my head.
I get why.
Because she's a Batgirl, and it just makes sense to graduate a Batgirl to Batwoman, because why not?
Yeah. I think what's funny is from where I'd seen various bits of what the end of the season was, and it feels like it very much should be continuing Kate Kane's story with where it left off. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what would feel really jarring is it might be worse to shift character someone new entirely and drop all the the relationship with Alice and all that interesting stuff that the show was doing with Kate, and just throw that away. That might feel more awkward than just having a new actress show up and be Kate instead.
I mean, they may just recast normal and not mention it and whatever. We just deal with it. But because of the type of show it is, I could see them asking her to come in for one episode just so they can have some weird reason why some superpowered villain changes her appearance, and that's just her. That's it. Now she's changed forever.
Yeah.
And then in the same way that we had Charlie on Legends, who has the face of oh god, it's been a while. Amaya?
Yes.
There you go. Nailed it.
Get you.
I've not binge watched the new season yet, but it's happening soon. But the same way that they kind of made it, this is almost the reverse of that, where they're making an excuse for why she's changing, as opposed to making an excuse why this actor's staying around. So I could see them doing that, but at the same time, they don't have to.
No, that's true. I think it'll be interesting, whatever they do, right? Because whatever happens, it'll be fascinating to watch just that first episode and see what they do.
I wonder. Usually recasting makes the show suffer not even in terms of the story, just in terms of ratings. Traditionally, if you look at any show that's recast its leads, it tends to have a negative impact. So I do wonder if this actually almost puts a crosshairs on its back as a show when it really shouldn't have had them. Maybe maybe it struggles to get a renewal for the fall, even though it's a CW and they renew everything usually. They've got Superman and Lois. They're talking about this other Arrow spin-off still. They're saying that's not dead. Obviously, it's been delayed because of everything that's going on, but it's not dead. Do they look at Batwoman if it's not doing as well with whoever the new lead is? Which, by the way, they need to get going on that casting.
Well, they've got a bit of extra time than usual compared to the standard season, because they're not airing it for like 3 months later than they usually would.
So maybe this is a detriment to the show, and it might mean the show actually doesn't have that long a life, or it could, or who knows? Maybe it'll take off. Maybe the new, because Ruby Rose isn't the best actor, so maybe the new actress will be better, and
it's possible. I think it's also worth noting that in a lot of shows we're talking about with these, recasting damages them, and while that is true, this is uniquely positioned to have these crossovers and boost its audience by okay, well, we want to be safe with the new characters, new actress, whatever route they go. Let's throw in some crossovers early on to guarantee people have to come and tune in and maybe pick up the audience and keep them there. Maybe that helps offset some of the loss that you would usually see.
Yeah, very possibly. Yeah, it may still go 9 seasons. I mean, it's CW. It's entirely possible. So. Yeah, kind of a big deal. Even though we don't, cover those shows anymore, we kind of tapped out. Even the ones that we traditionally liked before, with the exception of Legends, which was kind of its own thing, doing its own thing. Good cat, good cat. There's a moth in the room, and Wesker's going for it. Good cat, get it, get the moth.
Yeah, I could tell there was something flying around. You were having a look.
But what was I saying there before I started talking about the cat and the moth?
It could go 9 seasons. I don't know.
Or something
that was
after
the last
that.
thing I remember.
Good to see you pay attention to what I say.
I kind of tune you out after a few sentences usually.
But yes, so there you go. That is Ruby Rose leaving Batwoman. Interesting all the same, despite the fact that we don't cover those shows. So moving on. So we're sort of into the regular format from here on out. After the headliners, you can tell me the thing at the end. Don't be pouty.
Next time I'm interrupting because I know you won't have it.
It's we got some renewals here. So It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia has been renewed for a 15th season, breaking a record of some sort. This title, the headline claims.
I think that it's a little bit disingenuous in that I think it's the sitcom with the most seasons now, but obviously the seasons are shorter than a lot of other sitcoms, so it's not the sitcom with the most episodes.
Not even by a long shot. It's not even close.
No, of course not. But I mean, it's the longest running in terms of years that it'll be going, I think, in seasons. Yeah,
if you look at like the 11 seasons of like Frasier, for example, that had like 26 episodes a season. So like,
yeah,
that stacks up pretty heavily. But yeah, so that's been renewed. Good news. Can't complain.
Definitely good news. Yeah.
There is now more than half. Well, once this airs, there'll be now more than half the show I've not seen, which means I should really get going.
You really should get up to date. Some of the best stuff's been in the recent times.
Speaking of FX comedies, that I am more or less up to date. I've not watched this week's shit, but What We Do in the Shadows.
I am not up to date, so do not say a damn thing.
What We Do in the Shadows season 3 has been, or it's been renewed for season 3 at FX. Season 2 has been fantastic, and your boy Mark Hamill's in an episode.
I know. Twitter told me.
Yes.
There's no getting away from that. I've seen about half of the first season. I watched like episodes 4 and 5 this past week. I think it was 4 and 5. The one with the club, and then Animal Control.
Oh yes, Animal Control with the bats. Yes,
a lot of fun. I'm very very much enjoying it. I'm just kind of really slowly chipping away.
Oh, that's wonderful. I will simply say that if I ever find myself needing to disguise myself in America, I have learned some lessons from Matt Berry and how to do so. All I'll say is that when he becomes Jackie Daytona, you can barely recognize him.
Can't wait.
People who are watching the show are cackling with laughter right now.
I'm sure, honestly, it's Matt Berry doing anything, so I believe that.
Oh dear. Alright, so that's What We Do in the Shadows season 3. Good news. Speaking of season 3s, we have a release date for Dark season 3, the third and final season of the time-bendy, wimey, timey shenanigans show from Netflix, the German original. June 27th, which was kind of the date that we expected, although notably to hit that date, they're releasing it on a Saturday, which is weird for Netflix, but that's what it is.
A ball ache for us.
It's a pain for us in our schedules, but we'll get that first episode review out that weekend. God damn it, somehow. But
we will, one way or another. It is happening.
Yes, but it's coming. I assume this is 8 episodes again, like season 2, but I didn't say that for sure.
I don't know. I'm going to quickly check IMDb. Obviously, while not necessarily completely accurate, IMDb only has 1 episode listed, so that's not helpful at all.
Definitely not accurate. Well, if it is, it's going to be a great surprise.
It's just one 8-hour episode.
Maybe the review won't be that weekend then, if it's 1 8-hour episode. And then speaking of dates for Netflix shows, we get season 2 of The Umbrella Academy coming on July 31st, so that's about a month later then, coming at the end of July, which is cool. Fun show. Looking forward to watching more of that.
It's nice to know we've got some content coming over the summer in general. We got Dark, we got that. We're still expecting The Boys at some point over July, August time.
Yes, it just means the drought though is going to hit in like September, and
yeah, it's coming at some point.
That said, we do know that apparently The Haunting of Bly Manor from Netflix, like he said, what's his face, Flanagan said on Twitter that as far as they know, there's no delays to when that comes out based on everything.
So that's coming in October still.
But that might be just because they I mean, by the time October hits, it'll be 2 years since season 1, so they probably shot that a while ago, and that's why it's not affected.
Yeah, I know. I'm fairly sure that finished shooting already.
A long time ago, even, I would suspect.
Yeah.
So they're probably just doing some post, which they can do in ways from home. And then speaking of dates, we don't cover this one because we really did not like the pilot, but it's worth mentioning that The Alienist, Angel of Darkness, the second season of that show, is coming July 26th. That's a TNT show with your...
Is the second season only just coming?
Well, they've got big actors in it. It takes time to get them
yeah,
free.
honestly, but I assumed this was going to be like the third season when you told me that subtitle, because it's been so long.
Starring, what's your boy, Luke Evans... Is it? Yeah.
Yes.
Who is it that I keep mistaking Luke Evans for? Because I'm forgetting now who it is.
I don't know. Who do you?
Was it Orlando Bloom that I mistook to?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I can see that immediately. Yeah.
I remember thinking. I think it was that Amazon show he was in. I thought it was Orlando Bloom at first, and then there was something. There was something where I had the wrong one.
Probably. It's not like I've never made the mistake myself, but. You say Orlando Bloom. Yeah, I can absolutely see why you would mix them up.
Now, here's an interesting one. You remember how season 4 of Lucifer was supposed to be the last season? It moved to Netflix for that one last season. And then they said, you know what? We worked out a deal. We're going to do season 5. Well, and that was maybe the last season again.
Yeah.
Hold your horses, because season 6 is now apparently happening after what they're calling intense negotiations with the Star to return. They're doing season 6.
Yeah, so we heard about rumblings of season 6 probably 3 or 4 months ago now. It was a little while, but again, it wasn't anything official. Just, I mean, people who were working on the show, I think it was writers, were kind of acknowledging that there might be a season 6, but it was very up in the air as to what was going to happen. And there are reports that this is actually at Netflix's request.
I mean, it says something. They saved it for one season, and then not only has it got another one on top of that, now it's going to get a third one. They've not actually finished shooting season 5 for the record. They still have to finish shooting season 5 when they get back to work. But
yeah, but it's incredible that the writers were told, hey, season 5's your last one. Write your ending. Everything's sorted. By the way, we might want more of this. Don't write yourselves into too much of an ending.
I mean, if you're a fan of the show, like this is. I remember that's not the exact same situation, but I remember being worried that Fringe was going to be cancelled like every single year once I started to love it, and it felt like a gift every season when we got more. So I think if you're a fan of this show, the fact that you keep getting the good news that hey, it's actually not ending yet. It's actually not ending yet. It keeps coming.
I feel kind of bad for the fans though, in that 3 times they've been told this is the end. and they go, okay, they get sad, and then they console themselves, and they're like, okay, I've accepted it, and then here's some more for you.
All right,
and then they have to go through it all over again.
Next up, ABC has renewed 13 series for next season. So I'll just
not surprised right now, given that it's easier than trying to start up too much new stuff.
Yeah, 8 of them are scripted, so 8 are more relevant to kind of what we talk about. But I'll just list the whole thing here rather than try to pick them out. So they've picked up American Housewife, Blackish, The Connors, The Goldbergs, A Million Little Things, Mixedish, The Rookie, Stumptown, and then reality shows The Bachelor, Dancing with the Stars, and Shark Tank. So
okay, I recognise a reasonable amount of those titles.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Two of their sitcoms are just the Connors and the Goldbergs. It's becoming maybe a lazy trend of just
and
picking the
I
surname.
think there was two things in there with Ish.
Well, they're related.
Are they related? Okay.
They're the one's Mixed Dish is a spin off of
Oh,
Blackish.
okay, I remember now. It was a while ago.
Yeah, to be fair, that's
it.
supposed to feel connected. So.
Yeah.
That's fair play. So there you go. So some renewals from ABC makes sense. They're going with the safe options because they can't really do quite the pilot season they usually do. So
it's one of those awkward times where I don't blame any network for just taking any just safe options this year. Just being like, this'll do, right?
Yeah. I'll tell you what though, I'm glad that I don't have a stake in any network shows, because it'd be really, because the safe option for a lot of shows would be just to cancel, and a safe option for others will be just to keep them. And I would be like sitting there worried, do the show I care about, what does it fall into? Is it safe to keep it or safe to cancel it? I don't know which one.
Yeah, the only network show we even watch anymore at all that I can think of is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and we already know that's ending, so it's fine.
Yeah. Next up, HBO Max has accelerated the release of the remaining episodes of Anna Kendrick's show Love Life. So they're actually putting out the next 3 episodes like this coming what day is it? So episodes 4, 5 and 6 will be available Thursday, June 4th, and then the following week the final episodes will all be added. So instead of doing I think
they were doing kind of like the Hulu release style, where it was 3 the first week and then 1 after.
But now they're doing 3 a week, essentially, by the looks of it. So maybe 4 in that last week, actually. So I mean, maybe this is because of the same reasons why a lot of this is happening recently with all the quarantining and isolation. Maybe that's why they're doing it. It could just be that they want to have a bit more original content up there as a selling point in their early days.
Could be. I think it's interesting though that a lot of content distributors, networks, stream services, whatever, right now are being like, we need to make our stuff last, right? And we've seen things being spaced out more than they were originally planned to. It's funny to kind of see the opposite happening here.
Yeah, well, we'll see. So that's that. Just a sort of general thing here. I just wanted to mention this because it seems important that Hollywood has submitted a plan. A set of guidelines for reopening shooting, sort of a general set of rules of safety protocols, testing, conditions, rules on works, on set and things like that, for being kind of safe but getting people back to work, because we can't necessarily stop doing things forever. I just wanted to mention that was happening, and they're kind of looking at this.
It's interesting because the UK film industry's already started back up. I have friends who work in it and are already back at work. So it's interesting that they are taking it a lot slower in that regard.
Yeah. It's a 22-page document called Proposed Health and Safety Guidelines for the Motion Picture, Television and Streaming Productions During the Bleep Pandemic. I bleeped it because we can't say it on YouTube without being demonetized. So, yeah. So it's just a thing. I just wanted to mention it just to sort of give you an idea of like they're kind of inching towards doing stuff again. But hey, so that is that. So we're on to new TV shows and stuff in development here. In the sort of backs. It's what I kind of like about putting the headlines up first. It kind of makes all that stuff we just did kind of like the middle section now, as opposed to just this big lump at the front. It kind of breaks up a little bit. It's a great idea.
I said this a year ago.
That's a great idea I had. That's a great idea. So first up, Amazon Studios and Hillman Grad are developing a series based on Neil Pake's 6x8 press short story called Reawakening, which was a competitive thing. We got executive producers Lena Waithe and Rishi Rojani. Reawakening follows a brother and sister who are torn apart by violence. They find themselves on opposite sides of a large-scale conflict between refugees from Earth and the native inhabitants of a utopian planet. Oh, that's sci-fi. I didn't even know it was a sci-fi story until I got to the end of that description.
At first, I was like, is this going to be really, brother and sister ripped apart by violence? And I'm like, okay. I mean, sounds vague, generic. And then you carried on. I was like, I'm interested.
I got to refugees from Earth and went, wait a minute. From Earth? Continue. What's this? Interesting. Okay, so Amazon developing another sci-fi series. Okay.
I'm down.
Okay. Intriguing. So that's that. Next up, other end of the scale here, MGM and Universal Television have acquired the rights to author Ivy Picoda's new thriller novel, These Women, for series adaptation. So, the creator of The Handmaid's Tale, the TV show that is, Bruce Miller, is going to develop and produce the project as part of White Oak's overall deal with MGM and UA. These Women, set for release by HarperCollins, is described as a serial killer story like you've never seen before, a literary thriller of female empowerment and social change. So definitely, you can see why the guy who worked on Handmaid's Tale is kind of gravitating towards this.
I really want to know why it's like nothing I've ever seen before. That was so vague.
I'm going to give you the full description here, hon.
Okay.
Set in West Adams, a rapidly changing part of South Los Angeles, These Women focuses on 5 very different women whose lives are steeped in danger and anguish. They're connected by one man and his deadly obsession, though not all of them know that yet. There's Doreen, still adrift after her daughter's murder remains unsolved. Juliana, a young dancer nicknamed Jujubee. I always said Jubilee there. Jujubee, who lives hard and fast, resisting anyone trying to slow her down. Essie, a brilliant vice cop who sees a crime pattern emerging where no one else does. Marella, a daring performance artist whose work has long pushed boundaries but now puts her in peril. And Aneke, a quiet woman, who has turned a willfully blind eye to those around her for far too long. The careful existence they have, built for themselves, starts to crumble when 2 murders rock their neighborhood. So it sounds like all these people will tie in some way to this serial killer.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that was a lot of characters that it just kind of threw at me there.
Well, you say that, but it actually does tell me something about how it's going to frame its episodes. I can see it cutting around like these 5 main characters, and they're all going to feel relatively separate and then eventually start crossing over because they're all part of the same sort of world.
Or alternatively, you could do like each dedicate an episode per character early on.
Yeah, I think there's potential there. I mean, The Handmaid's Tale is a really good show. At least it was really great anyway to start with. So
yeah,
so there's potential here, especially if they do it as a one and done. Like it's just it's 1 10-episode season.
And I would say I'm more confident in this, at least for one season, in that it's based off of pre-existing material.
Sure.
Because it was, once Handmaid's Tale started doing its own thing, that it definitely got less confident.
Yeah. Although I wouldn't say immediately. It was kind of a gradual thing where
no, it was.
The more it's drifted from it is the
right. It was like, okay, once they had to start really doing their own stuff and developing that, it was not as strong as just, okay, we had a really strong voice to follow in that first season. But hopefully here, okay, we've got a strong template to use. Maybe that will really benefit.
Yeah. So there you go. That's These Women. And then the final story I have, although I'm sure Connor's going to get really mad, that I've not put in whatever he thinks is important.
It is, because I mentioned it to you like 3 days ago as well.
I don't remember everything you say to me. So we have David Barron, who was a producer on both Harry Potter and Cinderella. He's lined up his first TV series with an adaptation of the acclaimed 2018 detective novel A Treachery of Spies, a historical thriller which starts with the murder of a 1940s World War II France and unfurls its mysterious into the present day with a brilliant but haunted female detective as the lead. So, yeah,
sounds kind of generic in that description.
It's a detective show that harkens back to something that happened in World War II. So
yeah.
that's your basic premise. So that's the thing.
With some style though, that could be fun.
It could be. No network or anything like that attached to it, so we'll see where it ends up.
Yeah.
But okay, so what's the thing you wanted to add in?
That is objectively headline news. Percy Jackson. No. I will not stand for you kind of being wishy-washy.
I think objectively is a pretty harsh word for Percy Jackson.
I think the fact that it had a book series that has sold millions of copies, 2 not very good films, but well-known films.
The only good thing that Percy Jackson has ever done is introduce the world to Alexander Daddario.
I mean, that is a pretty good thing to do, let's be fair.
That is the extent of it, though.
No, those books are wonderful. They are fantastic books, and to do it in a TV show now on Disney Plus is it's what it deserves. A proper adaptation. I hope. I mean, I really hope it get it right this time.
Disney Plus continues to add content I have no interest in.
I'm very excited for this, theoretically.
Although, actually, on Disney Plus, I won't make this its own news story, but they did finally add the correct aspect ratio for The Simpsons.
They did. You have to go out of your way to enable it, though.
No, I think this is a good thing, actually. I disagree with the cynicism the way you said that there, because basically it sets up the idea that a lot of different shows could have this, where you go to the settings and you just have like a toggle for remastered versions or original versions. So the idea that they've now put that in the back end so that any show could have that is a good sign for other things. So I actually think that's a good option to have.
I agree that having the option is good. My criticism is that you should give the correct ratio as the default and then have the option to do the other one.
I can agree with that, but like the fact that, let's face it, your average Joes aren't going to notice or care.
No. Okay, I will say I had to actively Google how to change it because they did just bury it in a menu. It's not clear where you're changing it at all.
Sure.
They could have done a better job with just where the option is presented.
For example, when they add Buffy to Disney Plus, which they probably are going to because they own Fox, that's an option that will be very handy on that show because the remaster is absolutely atrocious and should not be watched with any reason ever.
Yeah, just it's weird because obviously regional differences in Disney Plus are there anyway. Streaming rights with Buffy over here are a bit shit. Well, I mean, it's in 2 places right now that I could watch it. Both of a shitty remaster.
Yes, but you do have the option, of course, as just buying the SD version on Amazon. Because there's very few times I'll say go to buy other purchase options and go to the SD one instead. But Buffy's the one that'll say go to the other purchase options and pick the SD one.
No, I get that. I just didn't really want to purchase it. It's
sure.
It's Amazon Prime has it streaming. I'm like, great. Oh no, never mind. And then there was a big thing with Channel 4 acquiring the rights to broadcast it and have it on their own kind of catch-up service. I'm like, oh great, let's find out. I'll even sit through the goddamn ads that they put on if it's the proper versions, but it's not.
I wouldn't describe that as a mess. Broadcast rights and streaming rights are 2 different things.
No, but the reason it's a mess is because Channel 4, while they had the broadcast rights, also got streaming rights for their service for the entire show all at one go.
Well, yeah,
not having to wait till after.
But streaming rights aren't exclusive though. Like you can have the same thing be both on Netflix, Amazon, and whatever else at the same time.
Oh, no, you can. I'd say it's a mess in the sense that it was an exclusive thing to Prime, and now it's, okay, 4 are sharing it, but it's still this terrible version.
Well, yeah, but but just because it was only on Prime doesn't mean it was exclusive. Does it just happen to only be on there at one particular time, or is it actually an exclusive they paid for to be exclusive?
I think it was an exclusive that they paid for quite a while. I'm assuming the license expired, and...
Yeah, because there's a big difference. This doesn't sound like a mess to me. It just sounds like, no, another person paid for the rights to use it, and there was nothing exclusive, so there's no reason not to.
No.
Because
they paid for the wrong version.
Oh yeah, of course they did. Yes, proper remaster for Buffy. If you know what, like if I demand the HD Whedon cuts of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Don't go there. Please don't go there.
Hashtag release the Whedon cuts. No, actually, not the Whedon cuts.
No, don't use that because they will very specifically tell you that you already got it.
Hashtag release the Whedon remaster. That's what I want. The Whedon approved remaster.
How do you know he didn't approve this one?
He definitely didn't. Not only does it change the color timing, so it actually changes like the time of day. Like there's some comparisons if you look at. There's a scene from early season 3. It's Buffy's having a dream sequence and she's on a beach and Angel hugs her and it's like sunset, and they're on the beach and it's this like dramatic moment. The color timing and the remaster, they've completely like just like taken the originals without all the actual added color like manipulation, so it just looks like the middle of the day. It's not dawn anymore or sunset. It's not dawn or dusk. It's just random middle of the day shot. And then there's other scenes that are supposed to be nighttime, but they're not been colored correctly in post now, so they're just look bright.
It's all over the place. It's terrible.
It's absolute madness. And then on top of that, not only do they crop in sometimes and sometimes widen things where there was more information, seasons 4 onwards in Europe was always in widescreen, and it had a couple of gremlins, but for the most part was shot safe, so you could broadcast it that way. And I've seen those versions, and I'm kind of used to them, to be honest, and they're fine. It's not the preferred version from the creator.
No, but they were presented in a way that, that they knew they were going to use this way.
But the point I'm getting at, though, is that these exist. So season 4 onwards exist in a reasonable widescreen format which can be used. For some reason, the remaster still crops into it for its widescreen image. Very often, like multiple times. It varies from shot to shot. It literally goes back and forth from...
yeah, honestly, I feel like we shouldn't even be calling it a remaster, because that's doing a disservice to that word.
It's a travesty, is what it is.
It is a shambolic mess of a re-release.
And that's all before we even talk about just the fact that it's just this digital noise reduction turned up and everything looks waxy and...
it looks terrible. It really does. But I was very disappointed, is my point, because I was like, oh, maybe this will be an excuse to do a rewatch. It's been a long time. Paige has never really seen it. She's seen the odd episode here or there, but she's never watched it properly. I was like, oh, we could, start watching through it.
Poor child.
And then it was just, oh, it's this again. Never mind. Back to not bothering.
All right, yes. Demand the Whedon remasters, people, please. Let's get it done. Let's make it happen. Disney can put some of that empire to good use.
Seriously though, if Disney Plus throw that up there, you should at least get a few months of it, just out of solidarity, of support for doing the right thing. Even if you don't need to watch it that way, you own the SD versions. I'm sure that's fine.
Well, no, I would want the remasters though. Like, I would still buy them. Like, if they even if there's no physical release, if they put like a better remaster up on like Amazon, say for purchase, I would buy it.
Oh, sure. I mean, even if Disney don't do another remaster, they don't fix it. They just put up the shitty version, but with a toggle switch for the original, right?
Oh, you're saying I should get Disney Plus just to watch it in SD that I already own?
Yeah. And I'm not saying you need to be like, oh yeah, make a point of it, but just to show some moral support for them doing the right thing of like, no, we are making this accessible as the correct way to watch it.
The thing with the Simpsons one is that it was even more obvious that something was wrong, because if you look at some of the comparisons, it literally cuts off some of the jokes that are there.
Because there's a lot of visual gags in that show.
And it just takes them away. So, yeah. Anyway, that is the news this week.
Yes, and some random ramblings at the end.
Well, usually it is. You can let us know, of course, what you thought of the news. Please do liking's important. It lets YouTube know that you recommend us to other people. So please do that. And subscribe and ding the bell and all that YouTube-y jazz. You can support us, of course, via patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses. And if you go to the $5 tier, you get some stuff early and so on and so on. And so go and have a look and see if you're interested in all that stuff. You guys on Twitter at @mailed_fuzz for channel updates. I also thank our Patreon producers, actually. I should do that before we go. Thank you to David Short, Tyler Hess, Alison M. Fordyce, and Cindy Palacios. They are all $20 or above on patreon.com, which is why they are producers. They get credits and all that jazz. So that is us. So thank you very much once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?